The Steelers in their second Super Bowl under Ben Roethlisberger, but they got there totally different manner. Hey, how are you folks? Jason Horowitz, Clark Judge, Ian Eagle, glad to be with you. Postseason edition of the Endzone. It's the last edition, as we'll be down in Tampa next week getting you ready for the Super Bowl and countdown to kickoff on CBSSports.com. But this segment all about the Steelers, guys. And when you look at Pittsburgh 4 years ago, 3 games on the road, got to the Super Bowl, and then won Super Bowl 40 in Detroit. These two were at home. 2 different games, San Diego and then Baltimore. And now you get a different type of team in Arizona. They're the favorite, but should they be as big of a favorite as they are?
Well, I think they should, because I thought a month ago the Steelers were the best team in football. And you look at Pittsburgh, look at the schedule they've played. It's been a minefield. I mean, they've gone through division winners, Super Bowl champions, past Super Bowl champions. They're a very good team. And the reason I think people love this ball club, and the reason I love it, is because they play defense. And nobody plays defense better. And what happens this time of year, you look for teams that can run the ball, which they can do okay, but teams that play defense. You got Dick LeBeau. Dick LeBeau is the best at this time of year. I don't know how you beat Dick LeBeau, and I think that's why the point spread's up there. But also, you've got a quarterback here, Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, Kurt Warner has been here, but Ben Roethlisberger's been here before.
And nobody, aside from Tom Brady, has won as early as Ben Roethlisberger has in NFL history at that position.
He doesn't put up huge numbers, so I think that's part of the reason why maybe people and football fans don't look at Ben and say an all-timer in the Brady mode and in the Peyton Manning mold. But all the guy does is win. From the day he became the starter for the Pittsburgh Steelers, all he has been is a winner. It's interesting for me because at this time of year, you're not always looking at the best football team representing the respective conference in the Super Bowl. And then all of a sudden that perception may change. This is a case where the best team in the AFC made it through the playoffs. Yeah, there were times during the season where Tennessee was thought of as the best team. Maybe a time where Indianapolis might have looked like the best team, ripping off 8 in a row to end the season. But start to finish in the 2008 season, no team was more consistent in the AFC than the Pittsburgh Steelers. They belong in the Super Bowl. They are the best team in the conference.
And this is a team and a franchise that knows what it's like to be in the Super Bowl, the 7th Super Bowl in franchise history. Only Dallas has been to more. Motivation for a Super Bowl, it's silly to ask that question because you shouldn't need any. But that has been brought up a little bit early part of this week, and of course no football this week, at least heading into this weekend. But is that a little bit of a question? Because it is being brought up. How do you make sure you motivate these guys?
You don't. I mean, this is a Super Bowl. You don't worry about these guys. These are competitive athletes, and you put the Super Bowl and the Lombardi Trophy in front of them, they're going to play their best. I don't worry about Pittsburgh. I really don't. I think it's an advantage that they've been here before because they're not in awe of the experience. Some teams get there, and I think Arizona's a possibility. Gets there and said, geez, you know, we've never been here before. What's this all about? And I think they're overcome by it. Ken Wisenhunt will try whatever he can to kind of settle these guys down, but that's difficult because once you get in that week and you find that everything I say is being quoted, there are thousands of people here as my audience. It's a different experience, especially for this team, the Cardinals.
He just mentioned Ken Wisenhunt, and of course the head coach of the Cardinals, and that's a story that's going to be brought up as well. You're talking about Ken Wisenhunt, the head coach, former coordinator with Pittsburgh. Russ Grimm, former coach in Pittsburgh. A lot being made of these guys know the Steelers scheme. These guys know the Steelers players. How much stake do you put in that?
Oh, I think there is something to that, but I don't think it's going to be the deciding factor in this game. Look, we're at a stage now with technology. Every team is familiar with what every team does. You can prepare, you can do film breakdowns, and you can absolutely be familiar with what your opponent is doing, play in and play out. Doesn't mean that you can stop it. The other side to me, which is also a very interesting storyline, is Mike Tomlin and the fact that he did get this job over Wisenhunt, over Grimm 2 years ago. And I remember sitting down with Mr. Rooney last year, and I asked him, what happened in this process that you decided that Mike Tomlin was the right man for the job when you had 2 candidates that were right there in your family already? He said, when he came in, Mike Tomlin, for the interview, the first time, we were blown away. And now we, at that time, said, well, maybe it was a fluke. Let's meet with him again. They did. They were blown away more. He absolutely impressed them to the point where they could see him being their coach for the long term. And as we know, Clark and Jason with the Pittsburgh Steelers, they don't get rid of coaches. You get the job, you stay there 10, 12, 15 years. Mike Tomlin is there to stay for a long, long time.
You know, he must have blown them away because Russ Grimm thought he had that job.
Yep.
You know, he really thought he had that job. And that, to me, is a subplot for this game.
Real quickly, because we're going to break down the game when we're in Tampa, each aspect of the game, and everybody will break down as much as possible because that's what people do heading up to the Super Bowl.
Really?
when you look at this, Clark, for the Pittsburgh Steelers to walk away with the Super Bowl, 6th in franchise history,
Right.
what do they have to do?
Be themselves. I mean, don't turn the ball over and get to Kurt Warner. They get to quarterbacks, and they led the AFC in sacks. Get to Kurt Warner. But don't turn the ball over. I mean, look what happened last year. Now, Pittsburgh and Arizona played last year. Arizona won. Roethlisberger 2 interceptions, fumbled twice. Can't happen.
Yep. And the biggest difference between what Arizona has seen in their first 3 playoff games and what they're going to see in this one is that defense. Suffocating, hard-hitting, physical. They haven't seen this yet. Pittsburgh Steelers defense is going to go down as one of the great defenses of all time. That's how good they've been this season and how good they've been in the postseason. Arizona's in for something they are yet to experience, and we'll see if they can handle it. You know, we're not making predictions on this week, but I think you can kind of see where at least I'm headed on this one.
And we'll see how that all plays out. We'll see how maybe injuries play a factor because Hines Ward certainly has the rehab, but he's saying he's going to be there. We all saw how healthy Troy Polamalu was in the championship game, and he'll be a factor as well. Can Larry Fitzgerald have the type of game and impact that he has had so far through the playoffs with Polamalu being out there? That's something we'll have to talk about, and we'll talk about that when we talk about the Cardinals in the end zone here. Playoff edition, the last one here on CBSSports.com for this season. For Clark Judge and Ian Eagle, I'm Jason Horowitz. Take care, folks.